Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. So, we all talked about sub-races before battle, and we were all wrong. I mean, we were right in spirit, but allied races have a bit of a difference. They're not necessarily offshoots of the current races. There is room for an allied race to be, well, literally just that, another race who's allied with us. Now, sure, the launch roster of allied races pretty much are just offshoots of what we've seen, essentially sub-races, but hey, there is possibility for a lot more. So, today we're going to go through everything, pretty much. Yeah, all of it, including a few wacky picks as well. Now, Blizzard, of course, also confirmed that we're going to see more allied races. It's a system that they're putting in with battle so that it can be added to as time goes on. And this really makes things interesting in terms of in-game content. I mean, as an example, imagine getting to pick up the Nightborn after completing the patch 7.1 campaign. What Blizzard could do here is they could really integrate the allied race system deeply into the patch cycle of the game. But hey, enough faffing about, let's just go talk about the races. Okay, Ethereals. Why Ethereals? Well, they're going to be one of the most important races in the upcoming story of the game. Not the immediate one, but definitely an upcoming one. The Ethereals lost their home to the Void, and by this stage, many of their people, many of the survivors, have been lost to the Void as well. Many of the Nexus princes have fallen to the Void, often in foolhardy attempts to harness its power, but there are still Ethereals who are on our side, or at least sort of neutral. We met many of them on Outland, and of course we met Locust Walker on Argus, though do we really trust that guy? Anyway, a Void-themed expansion is bound to happen. It's bound to have these guys, and, you know, adding them for that expansion as an allied race, that just makes so much sense. Probably, I would imagine them being a neutral race, and then they maybe choose a faction. Now, the new Ethereal models are, well, they seem a bit more humanoid than the older ones, just their proportions, the way that they're put together, it seems like they're more feasible for player characters. Sure, we probably wouldn't get facial customization with them, but I imagine they could do some really different, unique sort of feeling options that are really tailored to what that race looks like. Okay, next, the Crowcool. So the Crowcool have been in the game for a long-ass time, and in many ways, we kind of are already playing small, weak Crowcool when you think about the lineage of humans. But adding actual Crowcool into the game, well, it would be cool, but it might be a bit tricky in terms of like the height of player characters and all that stuff. And of course, customization-wise, these guys look pretty unique, and I've got no doubt they would make a great option in terms of their customization. Now, the lore of getting them to join up isn't too hard either. The Crowcool are still a bit tribal in their society, so you know, starting an allied race, questline to recruit a tribe to the Alliance or to the Horde, well, that would pretty much just make sense. So, I'd say actually Crowcool, yeah, it could actually happen. Next, Tuskar. So, yes, us, we are a small contingent, but yeah, we exist. The Tuskar fans. I love these guys. Okay, yeah, they're just another real-world culture crossed with an animal, but you know what? It doesn't stop them from being darn cool. Give these guys Pandaren-like rigs, a few modifications, and bam, we're sold. Being real for a second, though, the reason why I like these guys, or liked them so much back in the day, is their areas, they're quite serene, peaceful, beautiful looking. Plus, it's the kind of thing that I really love in the real world as well. Like, Iceland's pretty much my favorite place that I've ever been to. But overall, there's just something about their vibe that I love. I think Nick seems really into them. I think Mr. GM's also into them. So, you know what? Maybe that's only 3 of us, but hey, we'll get there and get Tuskar in someday. The turtle dudes, I've got no idea what they're called, but I did mention the Tuskar, and there are going to be turtle people, I believe, on Zandalar, so yeah, why not get the turtle people? And I really more bring this up because anytime in the game I see a new race be added in an expansion, I'm very damn suspicious about it. Teasing a new race, field testing people's reactions to them when it hits live, and then maybe implementing them as an allied race in a future expansion or patch, that just kind of seems sensible. And on that point, Vulpera. Now, much like with the new turtle people, Battle is bringing the Vulpera, who are a race of fox people that are friendly to players. They're sort of small and cute. Alex Afrasabi, damn, that dude's really into them. And, you know, people making furry jokes aside, I can see these being a very pragmatic pick. In other games, the small, cute-looking race is often super popular, so I could see Blizzard thinking that it would be a great idea to add these, and honestly, I don't disagree. It would be a pretty damn good idea to add them. Alright, time for the Alliance. So, the Kultiran humans, well, turns out, right, generations of inbreeding that come from being shacked up on an island, really, it does begin to stack up. The Kultiran humans have a very different, art style, shall we say, to the normal Stormwind humans. And they've got a different gait, they've got different posture, tweaked bone structure. Somehow Jaina made it out of all this just fine, but it really does differentiate them from what we're used to in the game, so it seems sensible to have these guys be added as an option for players. Of course, the Horde are getting the Zandalari, troll allied race, they already have trolls, so it's not crazy to think that humans could get an offshoot group. I'd be really interested in seeing Blizzard also have just more groups of humans in general. So right now we're all descendants of the Arathor tribe. Now I suppose the Kultirans are as well, but I'd be very interested in seeing them expand things out a bit like how in Song of Ice and Fire, Westeros deals with different groups of people from different places, like Ashai? Is it Ashai? I think it's Ashai, and the Summer Isles and all that stuff. I think it'd be just kind of cool to beef out the WoW humans and make them more interesting. Next, the Wildhammer. These are a pack of topless dual hammer wielding mad bastards who ride around on griffins and shoot lightning bolts. Pretty damn cool. I think the fantasy there is great. Let's just be one. Their customizations, of course, they wouldn't be massively different, probably in a similar level to a High Mountain Tauren, and I partially bring them up because I think it would be great if, as an example, they could have their own racial mount. A bit like how allied races right now are going to have their own heritage armor sets. Giving the allied race system itself more room for bespoke rewards on a race-by-race basis would be a great move. It's a way to differentiate the various different cultures, give people reasons to pick these races up, and all that stuff. Next, Crowcool. So, as much as I really do like the Lightforged Draenei, I think that the plight of the Broken, well, it's just far more interesting. Their whole fall from the light, journey over to shamanism, all that stuff. It's a great story. There's some fun themes and stuff going on, and especially the relationship with the regular Draenei is pretty interesting. Now, Draenei shamans are fine, but broken shamans just make so much more sense in terms of the lore. You've already got established leaders like Nabundo, and of course you've also got the new Crowcool from Argus, who could be kind of roguey warrior types. Overall, I just think it would be great to have a race like that for the Alliance. Okay, the Jinyu. So, the Jinyu are in here because they are something that totally makes sense as an allied race. They literally, first of all, do take up arms and fight for the Alliance during Mists of Pandaria, so in a way, they literally are an allied race. They seem like, it seems like something that they could be added with relatively ease from a narrative standpoint. It's more a question of how much do Blizzard see groups like this being contained to their own expansion pack? Comes up with the Tuskar as well. So the Jinyu, they won't have a massive role to play in the upcoming narrative, so for Blizzard, it's more a question of, with the allied race system, what is it? Is it something that's added to primarily based on the game's ongoing narrative? Or is it something that, you just sort of slap something in because it seems like a good idea? Are the Dark Iron Dwarves really that tied into the current story? As an example, could a patch that's, say, the size of 7.2.5, is that enough to bring in the new allied race? Just, I don't know, what is Blizzard's overall thought for this system? Next, let's tackle the Worgen. So currently, we play as the Gilnean Worgen, who are basically cursed humans. Well, the original Worgen were druids of the Claw. Night Elves. I'd be very interested in seeing Night Elf Worgen be added, and basically just Worgen with a different art style. It seems like a pretty reasonable option to me overall, especially with the Worgen being established as well in Darnassus City. Now, one problem is that the future doesn't look great for Darnassus, so it might be a bit tricky in terms of the lore. We don't know what's going to happen to the Night Elves, but yeah, I think, they'd wouldn't have to bend the lore too much to add these guys to the game overall. I'd say, yeah, it would just be a really cool option for a different art style of Worgen. So, Earthen Dwarves. Okay, the dwarves that we play as today are descendants of Titan constructs, basically animated stoneworkers who were given the Curse of Flesh by Yogg-Saron. We, of course, do meet many Earthen throughout the game, especially during Wrath of the Lich King, but also in Legion as well. Adding them as an allied race, it seems to make sense to me, though they're pretty far down my wish list, if I'm honest. But there is one thing that I think is an interesting sort of thing to bring up. Yeah, sure, they're these stone workers, but they do seem to be sentient individuals. I wasn't always quite sure about this, because, these guys are made in big forges, but if you look at Legion's Warrior Order Hall questline, or just a lot of that content in general, we do clearly see Earthen, who are their own characters, who are sentient and all that jazz. So, I think these guys would actually be, of a tier of being that's enough to be playable. And then also there's Mecha Gnomes, similar with the Earthen really. Mecha Gnomes are the Titan construct that picked up the Curse of Flesh, which eventually led to the gnomes that we punt about the place today. Mecha Gnomes run into the same questions, of course, as the Earthen in terms of sentience and all that stuff, so it's definitely something that Blizzard would have to figure out in terms of what they're okay with, like with their lore, like where it's actually going. But still, I think it would be a pretty cool option. And hey, let's just continue with gnomes. A Tinkerer gnome, basically a gnome, but with a Furiosa arm. Does this need to be an allied race? No, not at all, but I kind of want to bring it up because it would be a really damn cool customization option, which is something that I think would be very cool. Basically, it's an idea I want to introduce in this video and smuggle it in. It's the idea of being able to do something like in-game in your character, like maybe an achievement for a profession that unlocks a radically different new character customization option at the barber or whatever. Imagine being such a good engineer, you just lop your arm off and build a new one to put there. That would be pretty sweet, it would look damn cool, and it would represent the fact you're a badass engineer. So this doesn't need to be an allied race, but I think it's an example of, if allied races exist to enhance the customization options in the game, well, let's just broadly think about customization options and what cool stuff could be done. Okay, time for the Horde. So, Mag'har orcs. Currently, the only orcs that we can play as are kind of corrupted. Not really, but basically they're orcs who are descended from the orcs who drank the demon blood all the way back on Draenor. They're green skins. The natural orcs have brown skin for the most part, and players are not really able to play as one right now. The introduction of the allied race system, of course, makes it very simple to solve this problem. Just let us be Mag'har orcs. So the Mag'har are a tribe who live on Outland. They were friendly to the Horde during the Burning Crusade. They pretty much are, they're our buddies, so sending an envoy over there to do a quick questline to recruit these guys into the Horde just makes a lot of sense. And I know, right, this is just a skin color option, but maybe give them a few other unique options, some nice heritage armor, and you've got an allied race that is, it's all of a Dark Iron Dwarf level of different from what you can normally do, which seems to be enough to get past Blizzard's kind of like bar, their standard of what is an allied race. Next, Blackrock Orcs. Similar enough, really, why not add Blackrock Orcs into the game? Now, I do know that Blizzard have decided that the Warlords of Draenor Blackhand, he was just a bit too over the top, a bit too anime or whatever, sort of for the canon timeline, but the Blackrock do actually sort of look different. They're basically as different as a Dark Iron Dwarf is to a regular Bronzebeard, so once again, it would make sense as an allied race. They've got grey skin, maybe some reddish eyes, unique set of armor, some new racials, and bam, you've got a new Orc edition, and you're going to get a whole bunch of people to replay the game. So I guess Blizzard would like that. Next, Mok'Nathal. So the Mok'Nathal are half Orc, half Ogres. This seems a bit odd. I don't know what that would look like, but anyway, it's basically a mashup of Orc evolution. Rexxar is one of these guys, and yeah, he looks pretty damn different from an orc, pretty different from an ogre, so adding him in would give people something that actually does feel new. Their backstory is quite interesting, it's quite well established, as is Rexxar's role in the founding of Durotar, so overall the lore chops are there. I suppose I could see why adding these guys as a full new race back in the day maybe would have felt like too similar to an orc or something, but with allied races again being a far more flexible system, yeah, it seems like a sensible enough addition. Okay, the Tonka. So the Tonka are basically Snow Tauren from Northrend. They're already allies of the Horde. They literally are allied races from Wrath of the Lich King. So assuming Blizzard is okay with putting in the extra modeling work of up-resing these guys, giving them new rigs, all that fun stuff, yeah, they'd make a wonderful addition to the Horde. Boom, off we go. Now, they're similar to the Tauren, but I think they're different in their culture and their general feel and their look, so yeah, it's enough that this would be a pretty good option. Hell, it's definitely more interesting than getting High Mountain Tauren as an example. Then we also have the Angol. They're another Tauren variant, but I'm a bit more skeptical here. They were not really anyone's friend on Pandaria, so I'm sure that while in terms of ancestry, yeah, they're similar to the Tonka and all that stuff, they don't make much sense from the in-game story, so I'd say these guys are probably relegated to just being farmed for rep. Next, the Troll variants. So, we're already getting the Zandalari Trolls in Battle for Azeroth, so hey, why not do the others? They mostly do look visually distinct, though the lore might be kind of tricky. Player Forest Trolls are already possible through the Raven Tusk tribe. Sand and Ice Trolls, that's a bit more tricky. A lot of those guys have not really been our friends. But in terms of distinct body types, you've got the hunched but lanky Darkspear, the broad-shouldered Raven Tusk, the shredded but sort of lean-looking Zandalari. There are actually enough to give us some decently distinct options there. Also, I want to talk about tech goblins. Remember what I said about tech gnomes and just more customization in general? Yeah, a a tech goblin. That would be pretty cool. Be a goblin, lop your arm off, put a new one on if you're a good engineer. I think that would pretty much nail a lot of like player fantasy in terms of, what their character could be. Next, dead elves and like undead variants. So right now we can only play as undead humans. Well, more could be done there. Having other undead horde races might be a bit strange. Would Sarfang be happy if Sylvanas just started resurrecting his warriors? No, we'd probably be a bit miffed. Somehow, so I doubt that'll happen, but one established group are the Dark Rangers, which are risen high elves. I am slightly worried about silhouettes being a bit similar here, but this is, in a world that's got like 17 million elf variants already, I don't think an extra one would really hurt that much. I think people would actually be really excited given all the attention that Sylvanas has been given. Being, someone like her, I think in-game would be pretty cool. Plus, having a non-rotting undead option would be pretty good. It would be something that's new. I've even seen a lot of people say that, we've looked at the Chinese undead models, because in China you're not allowed to show the bones or anything like that, because, hey, government. So, the Chinese government's not really into that sort of thing. A lot of death symbolism doesn't go down well, but they get these undead models which have got covered up bones and all that stuff, and actually a lot of people over here think, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. So maybe more customization for the regular undead is another thing that they could do. Alright, ogres. Blizzard originally wanted ogres to be in the game, I believe anyway, as a playable addition to the Horde, but it didn't really pan out from what we understand. Now, this could be a time to revisit that. I've never wanted to play an ogre personally, I don't know why, but hey, it seems like a fair few people at some point have. The scale could work if they built a new ogre variant that's perhaps just a bit taller than a tauren, but I just don't see them being well placed as a race for this. Like, they're kind of typically just generic mooks for us to kill. At best, they're mercenaries, they're often a bit, a bit thick, a bit dull, so I'm not sure. Would you like to see playable ogres? If you do, let me know. Okay, the Hosen, so I included Jinyu for the Alliance, so it's only fair that the Hosen get mentioned here. My struggle with the Hosen, though, is gear and animations. It's just like some actual technical stuff. Sure, this is a game that'll put human armor on a dog or a feckin' cow, but getting this stuff to work in a sort of a slender monkey, that sounds like a really, really big challenge from the animation stuff. I mean, can you imagine the extent of the clipping issues in these guys? So, sure, while they narratively could make sense like the Jinyu do, I see some unique challenges. Plus, lore-wise, are these guys as smart as the Jinyu? I'm not always 100% sure. So, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on new allied races now that this system has actually been announced by Blizzard. I think it could be really cool. But what I really want them to see is, how do we integrate this into the patches? As I said at the top of the video, could we see a patch story, and then maybe if you complete the story of that patch, you get one of the new races, like if it's something like the Nightborn situation. I think that would be pretty cool. I want to see about stuff like, really deep character customization, so you maybe do something in-game, which, again, you'll lop your arm off, put on a mech arm, to use the easy engineering example. Yeah, I really want to see what they do there. And then as for things like a racial mount for a lot of the interesting cultural stuff that they could do, I think that's one area where they really could make the allied races feel different in ways that are, not more interesting, but in ways that are, I guess, more broad than just, oh, it's different customization options, a different skin color, different hair, different tattoo. Like, what actual unlockable things are there for them? And then as well, the idea of perhaps every, 10 levels, if you're leveling one of these guys up, if you were to get a quest with, like, their faction leader, which would beef up their story, I think if you wanted to tie that into the heritage armor unlocks, that would be a very cool way to do it and give people narrative. So, there you go. That's allied races, my thoughts, now that, now that we pretty much know what the crack is with that system. So, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what kind of stuff you'd like to see from this system, and I'll see you next time.